this is minute 13.
That's right. We're looking at time code 12 to 13.
So if this were a hotel floor, we would skip it.
But we're not going to.
If we were a superstitious podcast, or even just a little stitious, would we skip the minute, or would we adjust every minute thereafter so that this would be 14?
We would just not. We would record this and not put it out.
It's like pouring one out for the homies.
Yeah. It's like Bombas socks. For every 12 episodes, we give one to the homeless.
Or we could do the Wu-Tang approach and sell it to a farmer bro.
Yeah, Martin Shkreli is buying this one for 10 grand.
So I think I did a pretty painful summary last minute. So do you want to summarize 13?
I think you described last week as a 2-bucket scenario. And I think we have another 2-bucket scenario here.
Yep.
Bucket 1, Kevin's on the stairs arguing with his mom. We get to a wish from the wish kid himself, Macaulay Culkin.
From the page master himself.
Families suck, and he doesn't want any family. And he says he doesn't. He just says he doesn't want a family.
Yeah, we've all been there.
That's bucket 1, and bucket 2 is him going up to the 3rd floor, hopping on the hide-a-bed.
Yeah, still the terminology on that, not...
And is this the hide-a-bed? It's a pull-out couch.
I feel like we've discussed this, maybe without conclusion, but I don't think a Murphy bed is a hide-a-bed.
This isn't a Murphy bed, though. This is a fold-out couch.
Well, but that's what you're saying. You're saying this isn't a hide-a-bed, and the only other thing that I think hides a bed is a Murphy bed, and I don't think that it's that either.
Yeah, I think we looked up what a hide-a-bed is. And it's just a sofa bed, a fold-out couch.
See, that's what I've heard more than anything, is a fold-out couch.
Fold-out couch, yeah. Here's something that's mildly confusing. This has got to be the hide-a-bed that they were talking about earlier in the movie. But when mom tells him to go up to the 3rd floor, he's scared to go up to the 3rd floor. He's surprised that he's going up there, even though he's told that he's going to sleep on the hide-a-bed with Fuller.
Well, do you think that maybe the plan was to take him and Fuller up, as a group, sort of chaperoned up, tuck them in?
I think it's more likely that they have a second fold-out couch somewhere in the house. But this one's like already made up. It's already folded out. It seems like it's like that in a permanent state.
It does feel that way. It does feel guest roomy.
Yeah, but there's a little bit of inconsistency here. If this is the hide-a-bed that he was already told he's going to be sleeping in, but he's acting surprised that he has to go up here and sleep in this bed.
This takes me down the same mental path as I took as a child when seeing hidden driveway signs. I would often think, okay, well, it can't be that driveway because that's not hidden. So, of course, we haven't seen the hide-a-bed because, well...
This one's right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have You've always had an uncanny knack for spotting driveways, though. You're a little hyper aware of driveways. If no one's ever told that to you, I'm glad you're learning it now.
I never really did it competitively past high school. I was nationally ranked on a website called Hot or Not. I didn't say where I was ranked. I just said I was ranked.
You might know Jerod from hotornot.com. Bottom 20.
Where do you think Macaulay Culkin would be in 2 parallel worlds on Hot or Not? 1, the universe we live in. 2, the universe where he's not a famous child star.
Are we talking about current Macaulay Culkin?
I'm talking about Macaulay at the age in which he and people his age would care about him being on Hot or Not.
So like the Hot or Not era of sort of that early 2000s.
Yeah.
Kind of. In which I think Macaulay Culkin was like his super skinny, like, ooh, is this guy going to make it kind of era.
Yeah. We were worried.
One of my students the other day used the term ugly hot.
Not fugly?
No. I think it's got a different connotation, a different denotation than that. I think she was using it as in like, this person is rough looking, but in a sort of a sexy way.
Like in the way that Cillian Murphy kind of looks like Jack Skellington?
Yeah, I think Pete Davidson is sort of in this category for her.
Ah, okay.
Like it looks like he's not really taking care of himself, but that's kind of sexy in a way.
There are some principles in psychology that explain a good bit of that.
There's some women who like are into Steve Buscemi, and good for him.
What's attractive about not tipping?
We're talking about Home Alone, minute 13 of Home Alone.
Yes.
Seems like not a lot's happening, but I think it's a pretty important minute in terms of plot, because Home Alone is a wish fulfillment story. It's a very familiar, we can call it a framing device. We can call it a trope if you want to, but it's a classic story of your protagonist wants something, the universe gives it to them, and then they realize that they actually need something else. And
George Bailey.
It's a Wonderful Life, another Christmas example of thinking you want something and then realizing that maybe what you need is more important than what you want. I was talking about this very idea with my students today in my literature class, because we just read The Golden Touch, which is Nathaniel Hawthorne's take on the myth of King Midas, who loved gold so much that he was given the gift of the golden touch, and then it kind of ruins his life, turns his daughter into gold, and he learns a valuable lesson. Home Alone's the same thing.
And that lesson is that his daughter is worth more dead than alive.
Way more. We all are.
Whether we've been turned to gold or life insurance.
It's true.
But what did your students take from that? That's what you were discussing, but what were their thoughts on that?
Well, I think they get it, because we're sort of exploring this whole idea of wants and needs in this unit that we're doing. And I even asked the question, like, can we think of any more stories where someone wishes for something, but it turns out that that's not what they want when they get it. And one of the students said Home Alone. I was like, yeah, I agree. Perfect movie, right? And they kind of hit back at me. They don't love Home Alone as much as I do. And they thought it was sort of a weird take to call a Christmas movie my favorite movie.
Ooh. Yeah, that's an objection that I actually would not have foreseen.
They admitted that it's a pretty good movie.
Okay.
No one said Home Alone is bad, but they objected to the idea that it's the best, and they objected to the idea that I could have a favorite movie that's a Christmas movie.
I do think that there is a double standard across media, because if someone told you that their favorite song was Sleigh Ride.
I do like Sleigh Ride. Sleigh Ride's a good song.
Is it your favorite song?
No, it's not.
Let me ask a better question. Do you listen to it year round?
No, but if Spotify shuffles on The Ventures playing Sleigh Ride, I'm not changing it.
That is actually one of my many grievances with Spotify, and not one in an adversarial way, but I want to fix their metadata so bad.
It would be so easy.
Oh.
It would be so easy. Play these songs November to December.
And if you want to give users control of that, you can. There's also a whole other podcast about different distributors and the fact that something that I've added to my library, if it gets added by another label, it shows it's not added, even though it's in my liked songs, and then would show on my Discover Weekly as if it's a song I've never heard.
Get it together.
Spotify, hire me. I will work at, it's a passion project, so I still have to go to like third of my regular billable, but I just want to make it better.
You can charge them non-California rates.
That's true. That's true. I don't have those premiums. So again, I don't feel what your students are talking about. Like, I don't emotionally feel that, but I can wrap my head around that because I do tend to feel that way about Christmas music, and that it seems a bit strange if your favorite song is a Christmas song.
Well, I was also trying to explain to them that I'm very aware that when I say it's my favorite or it's the best or it's perfect, that is with the idea that it's coming from me. And I'm a 41-year-old white guy who lives in America. I was a target audience for Home Alone. And that shaped my appreciation of it. And that's unavoidable. So we had a nice talk about, is there any objectivity at all in what makes a movie or a story or a song or anything good versus bad? Is there any right or wrong to it at all?
No, not even close. It's art.
Well, and just like in like political opinion, sometimes you can go all the way around the spectrum where you sort of end up on the other side.
Horseshoe theory.
Where your movie is so bad that it turns into an enjoyable experience to watch.
Like Thanksgiving.
Yeah. The Room, pretty classic example of that.
Oh, great example.
Is the opposite true? Can your movie get so good that it turns into this is terrible?
Didn't you see what happened to George Lucas?
Is that an example of that?
Yeah.
How so?
I don't know.
Okay. I guess there are two versions of that are in my head. Like I think of if you are going to the extremes of trying to please everyone, and then your storytelling becomes all just trying to hit everybody's buttons, then you're actually sort of missing the point of making art. You're just sort of like going down the checklist of what everyone would like to see. That new Flash movie is sort of a version of that, where it seems like they're just sort of like checking off the things. They're trying to get a story in there, and to a certain degree, it works in some moments. And then at the end, it's just like, well, let's show Nicolas Cage in a Superman outfit. That'll be fun. Doesn't improve our story at all, but here we go.
When I think of so good it's bad, I think of things that are significantly better than anything in its class, so much so that it's boring.
Yeah.
One of the topics that we just had around the living room was the Olympics.
Okay.
And Michael Johnson, an incredible athlete, and so good that you were pretty sure he was going to win in a lot of these cases. But I have to imagine that if he was so good that you don't even need to watch the race, like if he's just leagues ahead of everyone else and it's not even close, like there's no potential for him to even fail, you wouldn't watch it.
Yeah, I see that. Like you're so great that it's actually kind of boring how good you are.
Right. We like to see a little possibility of crack in the armor. We just like to see that possibility. It's in every one of those books about what we like about people and influence and power and how to win friends, and that's what you can't ever appear too perfect because people want to see a little bit of a flaw.
See, I also think about that idea of something getting so good that it becomes not good in terms of like challenging stories too. Darren Aronofsky's movies, Requiem for a Dream and Mother. Like Mother's super hard to watch. I don't ever want to see it again because it was done so well.
Or like Schindler's List.
Yeah. Like I guess it's just difficult, like subject matter too, though. But maybe that's a mark of quality, is the ability to handle difficult subject matter. Would you rather watch Schindler's List or The Room, like right now?
Schindler's List.
I think I'd rather watch The Room.
I feel like I have to be in a certain type of mood to watch something like The Room.
My tolerance for really, really bad things has gotten really small the closer I get to death. Back in my working at Blockbuster Video days, it was nothing at all to use my 5 free rentals for the week on 5 terrible horror movies and stay up all night watching them all gleefully, just happy to soak in all the terrible cheesiness. And now I'm going to die one day and my time is finite and I just don't want to watch Jack Frost, the Killer Snowman, with that limited time.
Well, and you only have so many things that you can allocate time to, but there's also how you feel about the reward and the ratio. I'll give you an example in another medium, which is food. I would say that I probably eat 2 legitimately bad meals in as many weeks in an effort to find incredible meals.
I don't think that I'm watching Jack Frost hoping it's going to be good. I kind of know what I'm getting myself into there. You know, it was only a couple months ago that we sat around and watched Cocaine Bear. And I just thought, what am I doing?
You don't think there's a possibility?
Yeah, with that one I was thinking like maybe there's a chance that this is more clever, or this is an interesting take on this genre, hyper-violent comedy kind of things.
Well, and it really depends on your taste. So I would say that let's stick with The Room. I think The Room is way better than Enemy.
By what metric though? Like how much fun you have watching it?
Yeah, and that generally correlates. It's inversely proportional to the amount of pretense.
Yeah.
And if you're 10 on pretentious, but it's a 5, maybe 6 on execution, you just don't get a pass. But if yours is a 0 pretense and it's a 3 on execution, I'll take that.
Well, see, I think your formula's messed up there, though, because I think The Room was made with a lot of pretension.
The level of pretense has to be the full chain of custody, though, because no one who's recommending that to you is recommending it with any pretense.
No, but I think it was made. The intention was great cinema. So where the appreciation lies is seeing this remarkable product of 10 on pretension, 0 on execution.
That's fair. I'll take that. So maybe it's the distance between the two. If it's imbalanced, it has to be really imbalanced.
To return to minute 13 here.
Families suck.
Mom is hitting some sort of like on the nose dialogue of like, well, maybe you should ask Santa for a new family. And I don't want any family. Families suck. And then she has that line like, I hope you don't mean that. You'd feel pretty bad if you woke up tomorrow and didn't have a family.
I would love to watch a director's cut where she's like, I think you'd feel pretty bad if you woke up tomorrow and we had accidentally left you here and flown to Paris without you, and you had to defend the house against 2 would-be burglars.
The line in the script is slightly different, a little closer to what happens, and maybe they change it because it does sort of give it away a little bit more. The line of the script is, you'd feel pretty sad if you woke up tomorrow and we were all gone.
In some ways, that feels even more on the nose.
Yeah, I think that's why they maybe made the change.
And can I just say, I'm just going to give everybody who's listening a little inside baseball here. This screenplay that you found, every minute we've done, I forget it exists and that you have it. And I just get so excited when you pull it out. I'm like, oh, there's a whole other thing.
It's a nice organic segment. We don't have a lot of segments on the podcast. I think people like segments. We don't have little jingles and chapters of the podcast. We just kind of chat.
Yeah, we're not the morning zoo.
But jumping into the script is one thing that is fun to look at.
This is not an act. Every other thing that I do is, but that joy is real. I always want to say something like, oh, a couple things here, but every episode is just a list of things. Families suck is another thing in the list of, did he just say that to his mom?
You know, when I watched it again today, it made me think that was probably something Jerod's mom didn't want him to hear.
Correct.
Yeah. I don't remember my parents objecting to it too much, even though that's certainly the kind of language that was not allowed.
Yeah. My mom was none too happy about that bit. But the funny thing about this scene is that what I took away from this scene at that age and what line I actually listened to and stuck out to me was an accent that I didn't understand was an accent at the time, because the way she says tomorrow morning lets her Canadian out. And when I heard it as a kid, it just sounded so strange to me because it wasn't at all like any of the other lines she was saying.
I can't say that I noticed it. You got a better ear for that stuff. You notice driveways and you notice Canadian accents. That's what I like about you, Jerod.
They have a lot in common, accents and driveways.
If there's a Mountie trying to turn into the road off of a curve, you're in good hands with Jerod. Everything's going to be just fine. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
And everyone's like, look at that officer from the United States.
And Jared's like, no.
No. That's a Mountie. Just listen. I do encourage you to go back and listen to the way she says it. I think it's the word tomorrow and the word morning. Like that little phrase, like tomorrow. Just the way she says it.
Interesting. Yeah.
I encourage you to go back and listen to that.
I will.
But she caps it off with a really good eye roll.
It's there's a lot of in the script too, there's a lot of description of just the emotions of the scene here, which I think are captured pretty well in the performances and the directing and everything else that goes into capturing emotions in a movie. Kevin's almost scared of what he's saying. They both feel forced into saying the things that they're saying, even though they don't mean them.
That's a perfect way to describe his line, "No, I wouldn't."
And she is sort of forced to double down and make him say this stuff. And I think that happens a lot of times in relationships. And a lot of relationships fall apart or get damaged irreparably from these moments where we're backed into corners. And it's whether it's pride, ego, fear, whatever, it's forcing us to say something that we don't actually mean.
Well, it can often feel like an out-of-body experience as well, right? Because you're saying something while simultaneously knowing in your mind that you don't want to say that. You're like, is that me saying that? Why am I saying that?
How many divorces have come out of conversations like that? Conversations that could have been avoided if one of them had the courage to say, I don't mean what I just said. Can we start this over?
Or someone being open to hearing something like that. Because I think a lot of folks would respond to that by saying, no, you said that. You can't undo that. So it's sort of a justifiable response as well.
Yeah, we're all looking for wins. We're all keeping score.
Yeah, how am I doing?
Oh, you and I? Just fine.
Excellent. No divorce imminent.
But this is, for me, this is inciting incident moment. We can say that it comes a little bit later when, everybody leaves without Kevin, but like this is the moment. Kevin's asking to be rid of his family.
Yeah, you said it earlier that he's sort of making that wish. And the order of the words are important because he's a kid who's making a wish. He's not a make-a-wish kid.
No, but he is the star of 90s Saturday morning cartoon Wish Kid, where his magical baseball glove granted him a wish every week. 2 comical results. Every episode was this narrative trope of wanting something and then realizing that maybe you don't want it.
The Macaulay's paw.
Monkey's paw, perfect example of that. An ironic twist, right? I was trying to think of like other movies that do this. And you mentioned one, It's a Wonderful Life. He wishes he never existed. And then he gets to see what that would be like. And he realizes, oh, actually, existence, please.
So I think your students would be gravely disappointed by this. But if it weren't for Empire Strikes Back, It's a Wonderful Life would be my favorite movie.
Yeah, you've talked about really preaching it before. It wasn't the old Christmas movie of my childhood. I think I only saw it for the first time well into my 30s. But I like it. It's good. I was a Miracle on 34th Street kind of guy.
I think that was the one that we had most. The ones that we kind of wore out and were like, I guess, baked into my childhood were the Rankin Bass claymation ones.
Mm-hmm.
But Miracle on 34th Street, White Christmas, those are the ones. And maybe that's why I do appreciate It's a Wonderful Life enough, because it wasn't worn out.
Yeah, well, it's just a good movie too. Can you think of any other more wish fulfillment movies?
Yeah. Madam Web.
Okay. Does she wish for something? I wish I had spider powers. And she gets them. Is that her origin?
Yeah, the director tries to make a successful jump from television to film, and we got Madam Web.
Are you saying it was the director of Madam Web wishing for something and not getting it?
Yeah, and us as a people.
Big? I think Big has sort of a lot of the same sort of structures as Home Alone. You got a tortured kid, wishes for something, gets it, hijinks ensue, and then a return back to normalcy having changed.
I feel like wish fulfillment has a majority overlap with coming of age tales.
I think there's something to that.
Yeah.
And I think there's something to the idea of Nathaniel Hawthorne choosing the myth of King Midas as a important moral tale stripped of all Greek mythology. In his version, he doesn't talk about Dionysus at all. He just has a mysterious stranger. But there's a reason kids need to hear things like that, of the be careful what you wish for. Don't reach beyond what's reasonable to ask for.
Well, every one of those other John Hughes films, I think, has it. There are some Arrested Development exceptions where it does apply to adults, in like Click or something.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think that's a great example.
But in some ways, like I say, that's almost an Arrested Development thing, in that this is someone who is learning a lesson they might not have learned in childhood. They're sort of coming of age late.
We expect childish behavior from childish people, from children.
Right.
And Adam Sandler. We expect childish behavior from children and Adam Sandler.
Yeah. Every one of those coming of age movies in the 80s, Weird Science.
Yeah.
I think they all were wish fulfillment, because that's what a lot of the coming of age is. It's understanding that the world around you is not exactly what you thought it was.
There's some variations in the timing of it too, in terms of when the protagonist begins to regret that decision, begins to regret that wish. In the King Midas myth, he's thrilled for a little while.
Yep.
Until he has to eat, and until he embraces his daughter and turns her to gold. And in Home Alone, he goes a certain period of time happy that his family is gone. In Big, he seems very happy to be an adult for most of that movie. And in some cases, there's an immediate regret. And in other cases, there's never regret for getting what you want. Labyrinth is a wish fulfillment story. She wants her little brother to disappear. And he does. And then she immediately wants him back. Like the second he's gone, she wants him back. She doesn't spend any time sort of like getting all the stuff done that she wanted to get done without her brother around. She doesn't go to the mall. She doesn't continue practicing her play. She just immediately wants her brother back. But in like The Little Mermaid, she wishes to be a human, and then like never wants to return. It wasn't a careful what you wish for. It's here you go. You got
no
it.
regrets.
So Home Alone, I think, is a nice sweet spot of reveling in the joy of getting what you want for a little while, and then slowly realizing that actually you kind of did like your family a little bit, and you do need them in your life.
Is it stretching it too much to say that it's analogous to contentment, in that no matter what our wish is, if we were to receive it, we would eventually not be content with it?
That's true too, right? Yeah. Kevin's wish here is kind of out of line with his needs as a helpless individual. He can't pack a suitcase. He needs his family. He needs other people to do stuff for him.
Spoken like someone with adult reasoning.
Yeah. When we get upstairs, when we go to the third floor, what are your favorite like production details? What do you see there that always tickles you?
It shifted over the years. Early on, it was the gumball machine.
Yeah.
I think that awakened something in me.
You are really good at spotting hidden driveways. You can notice a Canadian accent, and you're romantically interested in gumball machines, which is weird, but I appreciate it about you.
It's something that I've yet to find a community for, but I know they're out there. I do remember the first time I saw that and being like, you can have that in your house? And even now, I'm still kind of like, why do they have that in their house?
I'm going to take a leap. We can't guess because no one knows. They threw a gumball machine up there, right? That's the real answer. But here's my McAllister cinematic universe justification. Uncle Rob gave it to him. That gumball machine is just an old Christmas present from Uncle Rob. You show up, all the nephews and nieces open up a thing, and it's a gumball machine. You're a hero. And eventually, it ends up on the third floor.
I dare anyone to come up with a better explanation than that.
That's just got to be it. One thing that I really like that's up there is Kevin like lays on the bed in like the weirdest, who actually sleeps like that, on your back, arms sort of like folded behind your head. But next to him is that weird sort of like padded armrest cushion thing. It's like a pillow, but it's sort of like a cushioned pillow with its own armrest.
Yeah, I don't know what those are called, but the it's like you sit up, you use it to sit up and watch TV. Like I've seen it almost exclusively in sitcoms with like the couple sitting up and watching TV in bed.
People don't buy those anymore. I know we had one. We had at least one. We had a couple maybe.
To give him a little bit of leeway on the pose, he's not going there to sleep. His initial move is to contemplate and wish.
He's stewing.
When you say who sleeps like that, I'd say no one, including him. Like, I don't think he's intending to sleep for a while. I think he's getting in his space.
He really is. He really is. And we can get deeper into that next minute, I suppose, because I have thoughts. It is. I think even in my rage and frustration, I would start getting ready for bed here. I would like kick off my shoes.
I think this shows how much more stubborn I am than you, because if someone had just forced me to go to bed, the last thing I would want to do is do anything reminiscent of going to bed. So his sleeping pose, and then he makes his...
Yeah, I wish they would all just disappear. I don't love that voiceover. Like, I kind of was just...
Is it too reverby?
It's just too, like, there's no other voiceovers in the movie. Later on, he says out loud to himself, I made my family disappear. And that seems to be the acceptable move here. Like, if this is the kid who says things out loud, let him say the thing out loud.
Well, when he says it out loud later, he's alone. And there's no one who could overhear him. I think there's enough, not necessarily internal monologue, but we do hear his recollection of things said to him.
Yeah.
So it's not like we're never in his head.
Yeah, that's true. But this is the only time we hear voiceover not being spoken out loud by him.
Do you think it was after the fact? Do you think this didn't have any of that and it didn't seem obvious when they were cutting it?
Yeah, maybe it just wasn't quite there, so they added that line. It's possible.
Yeah, it was just like an essentially mute pan over a pensive young boy. And they're like, yeah, it doesn't translate.
Yeah, we get that. We get him stewing underneath this state flag of Illinois.
There is a good bit of Chicago stuff up there, which I think seems realistic enough.
Yeah, I do too. I like that the crib's up there. I think I mentioned it last episode, but I like that we have a baby crib. Makes a lot of sense that they would still have a crib lying around with all these kids. But it's upstairs. Again, they've dumped Kevin off into this sort of, forgotten wasteland of McAllister junk.
Well, and not just junk, but very like lived in junk. Like it's not just a crib. It's like a crib that has become a catch-all. Like there's a bunch of crap on it. There's, I think, even like a glass on the side table that was from whoever had to sleep up there before and like had their water up there. It just feels very lived in and very natural. And
yeah, more so than the rest of the house.
I'll nominate them again for Unsung Heroes here.
We do really appreciate the production design of this movie. It's really good. Another impressive feat is this moon I think before a minute's over, we cut to the moon.
That is where we end with, I think, the same moon.
Yeah, that same very full, very cloudy December night moon.
That's no moon.
More John Williams. Can't get away from that guy.
And I don't want to out us in terms of people reverse engineering our schedules and lives and IP addresses and all of that. But in the time in which we're recording this, we're only, I believe, a day removed from a total eclipse.
Yeah, a solar eclipse.
So
how'd that go for you? Did you get some superpowers? You were sort of in the path of totality more so than I was. How you feeling?
I think it was counteracted a bit because I'm not sure if you've checked your chart recently, but I do think Home Alone is in retrograde right now.
Yes, it is spinning the other direction.
So anything I would have gained, I think, is probably counterbalanced with that. So who's to say?
I can't believe it. The moon was in front of the sun. Like really in front of it. I mean, the sun's up there all day. Man, here comes that moon.
If you like that, boy, do I have something for you about every 6 months.
I mean, I guess to be fair, like a total solar eclipse doesn't happen every 6 months, right? Like it's
a 4-year cycle.
Like, it was like 7 years ago. And I don't know. I also don't care. The moon's in front of the sun. Like, okay.
Yeah, but it makes dogs bark like fireworks.
You know, the dog's barking does make you go like, I mean, I guess it is kind of weird. I don't think we're getting superpowers. I don't think Supreme Being is telling us anything. But the dogs sure are acting funny. That's strange, right?
They're trying to tell us something, but we're too busy looking at the moon.
That's when they pounce. That's when they act.
Is the moon that we see here that we're kind of cutting to in this transition out of the minute, is that a trope? There's often something happening when we cut to like moon and cloudy sky, like things are a brewing.
Well, I want to talk about this next minute because I think it sort of gets into it, but we can foreshadow a little bit. I do think that more is at play than just circumstance. Kevin getting kicked up to the 3rd floor by himself and convincing Kate to put Fuller somewhere else. These are all just the chess piece moves that you have to make in order to leave Kevin at home. No one's bothering to check the 3rd floor to wake him up. And he's so far up there that he's not hearing them and he's sleeping in. At some point, he does get into his pajamas. He doesn't wake up in those clothes he's laying on the couch in.
I have so many questions, but I'll wait to hear all about how Kevin is like Donnie Darko and his moves are predestined or something.
So you get it.
So instead, we should pimp our merchandise.
We have a t-shirt. It's our podcast logo, which is a handsome Home Alone style house with a sort of like minute clock light thing shining out of it, sort of behind it, above it. And it says HAM. It does not clarify that it's the Home Alone minute. It just says ham really big.
Wait, have we checked the mailbag?
Yeah, there's nothing there.
Oof.
See,
so I'm going to say I'm not going to say don't get a shirt, but I am going to say priority is pimping out the show, not the shirt. Isn't it funny that people say like and subscribe and no one ever says share?
I don't care if you like it. Just subscribe. Actually, I want them to like it because if they give us the 5 stars, that does something, right?
It does.
Speaking of Spotify's algorithms.
It tells the spirit realm that we should be in front of more people.
It tells the moon that
to
more
leave
people
us home alone
should be listening to our podcast.
If you're listening to this right now, I don't care if you like it. I don't care if you subscribe to it, but I do care if you tell at least 15% of your friend group about it, because statistically, at least that many of them will be in line with your tastes.
I just want an email. I'll take a negative one at this point. This is a garbage show. You have garbage personalities. This is a bad movie.
I can tell you're ugly just by the sound of your voice.
One kid said Goodfellas. Like Goodfellas is his favorite movie.
Oh, I thought you were talking about wish fulfillment. I was like, wow.
He does say at the beginning, I always wanted to be a gangster. And then he gets it. So in a way.
Is it possible that that's in the same cinematic universe and Harry is his witness protection name?
I don't think so.
Okay, well.
I think it's
I
possible.
said Goodfellas is his favorite movie.
Another kid said Little Women.
Which one?
The Greta Gerwig one, which I agree is phenomenal. I loved it.
I have not seen it.
It's really, really interesting.
Will that get me canceled? Maybe I shouldn't say that, but
no, I think you can have not seen something.
I will put it in the queue to watch, though.
I think it's a really interesting story about adaptation. It's a self-aware interpretation of the book.
Is Greta herself little?
Ooh, I don't know.
Hmm.
You don't think she should be allowed to make Little Women unless she's under 5'2"?
It's not her lived experience.
Man, did you hear that Steve McQueen guy spent 12 years as a slave just so he could make that movie? That was tough.
Not as tough as Jerry Seinfeld going undercover as a bee.